let's Terrence start to do a chanting, maybe just a couple minutes, and then we will have a focus, and then we'll talking on this topic.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your presence and your being here and your willingness to do whatever you can to help all souls, all beings, all universes. Let's bring ourselves here into this present moment. There's no more important thing than being here right now. Let's bring our hands into the prayer position, and we'll start by chanting 3 Oms together. Om. Now, chant along with me. So hum, Shiva hum, so hum, Shiva hum, so hum, Shiva hum, so hum, Shiva hum, so hum.
Before we start the topic, I would like to share this quote from Tao Te Ching. It's the favorite quote I want to share with you and also my students. It is said, "Follow the way of heaven, things are done with all the benefit, without any harm. Follow the way of the sins, things are done by giving without considering anything in return." So this is the last chapter from Tao Te Ching. I appreciate the first quote, of both, and especially the first one. So we follow the way of the heaven, things are done with all the benefit, without any harm. This gave me the understanding in the medicine perspective, Chinese medicine and versus Western medicine. So the Chinese medicine and following the Taoism principle and heaven-human unity, so it providing the benefit and not produce any or very limited side effect, and also very limited or non-waste to the planet. They help promoting heaven-human unity and allow people to prevent disease, to have a healthy living and prevent disease. So that's what is great about this quote, and also enlightened me. And when we to do anything, any enterprise, and we need to consider, do we also generate side effect or negative things? Now, regarding the topic we're talking about, the dying, it's an observing issue in this world right now. Since my practice and observing people dying with morphine or drug injection, so that is considered interfere with this natural process, and it's possible produce side effect to the soul or to future generation of a human being. So with that concern, and we wanted to back to the natural and the tradition way. So let's share the wisdom of the tradition and also the culture of Chinese Asian culture, and see what we can learn and what we can follow for our current life. This is the conversation between me and my daughter when my daughter was 7 years old. I asked her, if Buddha and Jesus met, how do they reacting to each other? My daughter, she answered, they would love each other like brothers. They will be so happy to see each other like best friends. So that's inspired me. Whoever you are, which ethnicity you are, which religious you are, actually we all believe the same thing. So that's why we wanted to share the root of the spirituality. So we are all share the same root. So that's inspired me a great deal. So I also asked her, if a person dies, where does the spirit go? And my daughter answered, the spirit will be recharged as soon as it gets out of the body. It goes back to the God, and then comes back to woman's body, and forms a baby again. It starts our life all over again. A higher soul enters from the head, from the woman. A ordinary spirit enters from there and come out from there. She said, I don't want to say that word. So you know what I mean. So a true soul journey and will come back actually to become human and teaching the truth. That's most the saints do, and teaching the Tao. So that's my understanding. So the teaching I'm given is based on my culture, and mostly it's Taoism, some Confucianism, some Buddhism. You have your own understanding, maybe some deeper understanding in the other perspective, and hopefully we'll have some time to share. So the Tao is a famous quote in the Tao Te Ching from the chapter 25. So human follows the earth. Earth follows the heaven. Heaven follows the Tao. Tao follows the nature. So Tao is the nature. It is the natural way of our all true self. And what is Tao? And in the Tao Te Ching said, it's also hard to explain. So it's the universal principle. And also another famous quote we often heard, called the Wu Wei. But after that, there is Wu Bu Wei. So Wu Wei means you not should adding anything, or not to force to do something. But one should do everything to maintain the true nature. So that's the total meaning. So what humans need to do is to preserve the nature and following the nature, and also to preserve the ecosystem. So that's what I would understanding. So for the purpose of this teaching, and also future teaching, and we try to promoting healthy living and teaching the wisdom, knowledge, and tradition, and to helping people to promote preventive care. You don't want to wait to have a disease and then using so expensive medicine or method to treat that consider is too late. When the bowl is broken and then try to repair, that is too late. So preventive care is actually the main principle of Chinese medicine. And also we would like to promote soul health, as we believe, or mostly people believe, our soul is continue. Our life is only one part of life, but the soul is continue. So when people die, and the soul will continue, and then we need to also to generate a healthy soul. So that's the main topic we are teaching today. The third one is promoting the planet health. As humans can follow the principle having human unity and become a part of nature and harmonizing with the nature and living mindful to reduce the energy or resources. For that way, we can really preserve the earth and preserve the energy. And just as ourselves being healthy is another way to preserve the earth and the planet. So that's what we need to focus for the future, especially the future generation. Our goal, and for short term, we try to set up a center for the alternate senior care, which is extremely lack in this area or in this country. And we still try to establish more educational program, either for senior and for adult and children, and to bring the concept about healthy living and disease prevention. Hopefully, we will have enough funding in the future, then we can have our own facility, and then we can housing or facilitate the natural dying process. So that's our short-term goal. So today's workshop, we're gonna to contain most these topics. We might misarrange the topic, and some part we may not able to have time to talk too much. But I will presenting the first part and focus on teaching the Taoism and the Chinese culture about the soul. We call the Hun and Po, and also the Taoism point of view of the soul journey, the natural dying, and also health prevention. What considered is good ending of life in Chinese culture. And then I will briefly introduce some basic principle about revising consciousness with Chinese medicine. And during the break, we will have Derek to leading maybe 10-15 minutes for the Qigong meditation. In the other room is movement. So in the afternoon, all depend if I haven't finished the topic, so we might still have an hour for me to try to finish topic. And then we'll have a lump sum and to teaching the Tibetan tradition about death and dying, and the Buddhism principle on how to prepare death, and also the Tibetan Buddhism Four Noble Truths. And he also may have his form of meditation, and he will share with us. So that's today's topic. So by observing the dying, man can understanding the birth and the life. This is the wisdom from Tao Te Ching. In the Taoism, they teaching the wisdom by observing people dying. And then they will understand how people can live better. Those are wisdom are taught by the real life living. It's not by lecturing. They can pass on from generation from other generation. And during me preparing this topic, I talked to a lot with my mom, and she actually taught me a lot of tradition I didn't know, but she learned from her childhood. So during the teaching, I will share some with you. So in Western culture, especially in the modern culture, and people become afraid of dying, or the topic not even want to mention. We don't even say talking or teaching or children. They don't even want to mention about that to the children. They fear, and children gonna be upset and scared. But they don't understand there's so much wisdom into teaching from young. Once they understanding a healthy of life cycle, they can plan or can gain the wisdom to live a better life. So why people dying differently? I just collect some things in my mind, and you might also have some other thing in your mind I didn't put down. So some people, we know they dying very peacefully, happy and smile, and they are ready to go. And some people dying with a lot of painful suffering, struggles, angries. So some people may be killed by others unwilling to die, or killed by accident. Some people have a depressed life, been depression, sad whole life, and kill themselves eventually. Traditionally, we always try to see the dying, and hopefully it's not traumatic for the family. So talking to my mom, and she always very pleasant talking about this topic. For people dying old, she said it's a celebration in the old tradition. Yeah, old people before they in the dying bed, they all start to forgiving people or things they done not correct, or leave some negative relationship or karma with others. So they all try to clear up before dying. So we'll go through the slides, and we will answer all these questions. Here is another conversation learned from my daughter. So I asked the same question. Why some people are always angry, depressed, and seem very miserable all the time? Or when she's 7 years old, she said, if a person died by killing themselves, next life, they are angry, miserable, and depressed. If they can kill themselves again, if a person was killed by others, next life of this person will be sad most of the time. So that's what her teaching. I asked her another question. Why one live short, have accidents, or been killed at this life? Aurora told me, if one was killed during war, fights, fell off mountain or jungles, this life can be killed by airplane crash or car accident, also had a short life. So I asked her again, how can one change her life and is able to live longer? Our answer only can be done through a spiritual path. One can change her life and live longer through spiritual path. So that's the wisdom I learned from my 7-year-old daughter. I believe her spirit at that time is connected to the divine or higher source. And so we have a communication. I also believe this is a higher spirit through her to teaching me and to understanding deeper level about the life and the soul. I think since then, I do become deeper searching and seeking the answer or about the soul journey. So Aurora now is 10, so that's 3 years ago. So the importance of preparing death, I just gave a little bit brief. I believe Lapsam will have much deeper teaching on this topic. So no matter who we are, and we all gonna ending our life, and we need to know how we prepare it, how we live through this life. So that's one of the importance. We need to understanding about the dying. If we can understanding all the stage of the death, any phenomenon during this process, even struggle, anger, or happy, joy, whatever it shows, and we can understand what's going on with it, so we can prepare and help people for the transition. So if we know the dying process begin ahead of time, we can prepare, we can release our detachment into this material world, all the obsessions. So prepare cleaning our home, so that's you will have much lighter or clearer thought or journey. So for spiritual person, and we will consider every stage of dying is a road map, a sign which direction you're gonna go next journey. So we really think deep and focus and do not take it light. It's a very important thing for every spiritual being. So that's what we need to share in the teaching people, this wisdom. The following I would like to share with you about Chinese culture and what Chinese culture do regarding the dying. Chinese culture are deeply influenced by the three philosophies: Confucianism, Buddhism, and the Taoism. Taoism is the root of Chinese culture. And so in one of Asian classic book, it's named Shang Shu. Those are books from the Emperor Library. It states there are 5 fortunes for human. Those are including 1, longevity. So anytime, any stage, humans are sharing the same interest. They all want to live longer, longevity. But what's the meaning of the longevity? And we will explain in the later slides. Second, prosperity. So we need to have enough food to eat, have a clothes to wear, have a shelter, a home to live. The third one, harmony and peace. We live harmony, peace within our family and within our community and our society, and also harmony, peace with our environment, with the universe. The first one is virtue and the good deeds. And we find any religious, they all teaching human to have a good virtue and a good deed. The last one, dying without any ailment. And in Chinese way, we say good dying, or ending to your designed age. So this book appearing is 14,000 BC. It's a historical book of ancient China. It recorded the period time from 14,100 BC to 700 AE. So it's the history book. Chinese culture is considered the most documented and also very focused on the documented the country or the culture in the world. So as soon as the language and to generate and they have a great documentation about the history. So you might see those pictures. Actually, that's what they convert the 5 fortune into the art. And they actually using the bat, because the bat in Chinese called fu, and it's matching the fortune, means luck, in Chinese called the fu. So they using the bat because the sound the same, so they will bring up the same meaning that's in Chinese culture. So you can see the artwork. The middle is the letter of the fu, is the fortune, and surrounded by the 5 bat, indicating the 5 fortune we just mentioned. And I just found it's so great. So the saint, or in the ancient teaching, the wisdom, the teaching, they actually come into our life. So they generate either the art or converting different way to allow people to memorize now those things. And it's fun way of teaching and also inherit from generations to generation. So the importance of fortune, the most important consider is dying good or get a good death, ending. So in Chinese, the way to say 得好死 is 大福气. It means a big fortune if a person has a good dying or dying in the good. So beside the prosperity and the longevity, so the last great fortune is that when one comes to end of the physical life, and she or he lived his less healthy planned age, and so that's considered the best ending, dying without the disease. And we also have a Chinese word and called say 寿终 正寝，无疾而终. So this slides will explain this two concepts. Dying without ailment or illness. I think this should be every human being designed way of ending life. In the old time, human is able to achieve that goal. Nowadays, in modern life, I think we should promoting and also to desire to have a good ending, not desire to dying in the hospital or with illness, with a stroke. So I'm still keep thinking what perspective or etiology for the elder people, they all finally had a stroke and dying. So I can explain it in Chinese medicine principle, and that can be also a person, it's a dying process without complete. So because their body not clean, they have soul attachment, so they could not finish that process. And then they were sent to the hospital, cost a huge amount of money. Some nurse and MD told me, now they calculate. So the old people, they expend about 90% of the medical costs in their whole life. Actually, it's the last month of their life. That's extremely waste. How can we live without ailment and save all those money and the resources that will save a huge amount of resources and money for our planet, for the human being? Is there a way we can achieve to dying without the disease? Yes, we do. And even though people will have disease, what is the other way to dying without high cost, but also have a good ending? This is our later part of talking. So good ending in Chinese say can bring a good beginning, or good beginning can bring a good ending. They call this 善始善终. So this way, a person, if so reincarnated, it won't produce or bring any karma from the previous life. So that's what the golden goal we should achieve, 善始善终, dying without any disease. In the Huangdi Neijing, the Chinese medicine classics, in the first chapter, and already mentioned, in the far early time, people can die over 100 years old. They all have a mind, body, soul connected. So they're dying without any illness. Every human being is able to achieve this goal. So the soul journey, we believe, is continue. It's just the picture to draw to helping you understanding. This is not the real happening. So each part, and it's just a part of a life. So we often heard people say, oh, or we comment on some people, you must come from an old soul because they have a lot of wisdom. Now I can comment my daughter's soul. I said, yeah, she must have an old soul. So she bring back a lot of wisdom and also can influence her family and the friends, and she can continue the teaching and teaching the spirituality. So in the Buddhism, they have this symbol, infinity. In Chinese medicine or Taoism, we call the sheng sheng bu xi. Sheng sheng is generation and generation, or growth and growth, never ending. So it refers to a life. It can also refer to our soul journey. So to achieve a healthy life, healthy soul, and there is a way of teaching. In Chinese culture, we have a Qigong meditation, and now we have our teachers, and now Billy and Derek following the Taoist Qigong master and teaching and also sharing their wisdom. The yogi, Indian tradition, they have a yoga meditation, yoga. So it's very similar with Chinese meditation. So healthy life, healthy soul, and especially everyone on the spiritual journey, and we need to seeking and this path. Zhuangzi, he also Taoism. He's younger than the Lao Tzu. So he describing human life growing at the same time as dying. So we should understanding that. As soon as we were born, our end is dying. So as we growing, we are dying. Our body aging. As dying at the same time as growing. I think that refers to the soul. When we dying, actually, it's the soul renewing, regenerate. So that's he state this way. So dying is as important as birthing. So this is a Taoism principle. So we should treat both dying and the birthing as important. So in Chinese medicine and also Chinese culture, we promote longevity through healthy living. We call it yang sheng. That's one of the class and teaching, and then Teresa helping me do the editing, so make my book able to publish for the student. So to cultivate our body, the Taoism promoting healthy life, longevity, and indicating during the longevity, and one can cultivate their soul better. So you have a longer time to cultivate the soul. So for Chinese culture, we talking about the cycle of life. We have a birth. So you can see the first character. I will explain that later slides. This means growth. This is a modern way of writing. I will introduce you the pictographic, and then you will see it's growing. And also birthing, growth, mostly means birthing, and 长 means continue growing or stronger, not strong, like blooming. The third one, 壮, like a mature, fully mature, strong. And then old, getting old. And then it's called the 老. 已 is ending, stopped, like a finished. So they don't put dying there. Oops, sorry about this. Oh. So the cycle of her life, it should be 生长壮老已. So that's the stage. And plant will go through that through the season. You can see the germinating, growth, stronger, blooming, and then withered, and then dying. So that's the cycle. And human and animal also share the same cycle. Healthy dying is summarized. Life naturally ending. Human body fully depleted of life essence. And so that's the dying process. Here is a story about my great-grandma, about the healthy dying. She was a midwife and also woman doctor in the countryside. When I was little, I still see her practice. Went to her home, and mostly once a month or sometimes twice a month, we'll visit my grandma and my great-grandma. About about an hour riding bicycle. At that time, the only transportation. So my parents and riding bicycle carrying us to visit the grandparents. So she's very intelligent and a very wise woman for that time. She has, my mom said she always have the sewing needle, and I think the needle, what we are using right now, acupuncture needle, it's not existed at that time. So the needle they carrying on is like sewing needle. That's how thick it is. And so she often treating people have a migraines. Women have infertility issues. So when she towards near 90 years old, she never had an illness. In my mom's mind, she never sick. She was healthy. And she told her husband a few years younger, she said, I have enough of my life. I think my life is coming. My end is coming. So she said, I'm ready to die. And she cleaning herself and lying on the bed, and for 2 weeks without eating anything. And the family member, of course, wanted to ask her, oh, you should live more, you should take medicine. And she refused. And she, in the other way, she just talked to people. She talked to my mom, said, oh, I was mistreated you when you was little. I thought you stole my bracelets. My mom didn't even know she had such thought on her. So, but she was happy, and her grandma cleared that up and before she dying. So I asked my mom, and was she consciousness? She said yes, she consciousness too. She has passed her last poop, and after that, probably a couple hours, she died. So they're very peaceful, and without any struggle. And she prepared, she quiet, and of course, people, a lot. Friends and neighbors and people from far away, so they come over within this 2 weeks and visit her. So that is the natural way dying. And people after dying, then they will have set up a big tent sometime in the countryside, and they will have an actual room, so they will keep the body on in the actual room. They decorate, so they all called it soul palace or soul tent. And traditionally, they put the body on the street, especially the crossroad on the center. So build up the tent. For old people dying, it's a big celebration. They can have people come to play and sing operas and have a big feast. So that's how they treat it. Traditionally, as my mom stated, they will leave the body at least for 7 days, and people, of course, at night, family member, they guarded the soul palace. They sitting there, and they will sometimes bring either monk or the people doing some spiritual work, or the Taoist monk. In that tradition, mostly in our area, they don't have much Buddhism monk. Most still kind of a rural area. So people, even they have a woman, what do you call it? So to talk to the spirit, so they can come there. And then they will have a big celebration and to carry the body in the coffin and have a cart. It can have hundred people and following and go to bury the body. So that's the general the tradition. When I was little in the countryside, we often also watching all the event. It's kind of like big event in the countryside. So this is the natural dying, and everyone maybe have some different story, but now that's the only story I can know, which is close to my family or my heart. So I would like to share this. That's the one thing I'm teaching for about healthy dying. For the spiritual people dying, I haven't have any experience, but my dad told me when he visited one Buddhist temple in China, old monk, and so they have a place, so they put a monk surrounding in the circle, and those are people preparing dying. And they have also some monk and to feeding the water. So that's the processing. I believe Lobsang will have more story to share. So let's talk about the longevity. The character in here I will also explain in the pictographic, so you will have more understanding about the meaning of the life, who determined the life. So the first part we call the 寿命. It can refer any per chair has also lifespan, a bed, a camera, a human, plant. So 性命, it's more referred to our human. I will explain this in detail. Oops, sorry. And the 生命, that's another termination and refer to a lifespan. So the longevity in the 黄帝内经, the Chinese classic medicine book, in the first chapter, it's talking about how long our human can live. At that time, it shared the knowledge. They said far, far ancient time. And even the book was written 2,500 years ago. In that book, still mentioned far from a long time ago. So people can live up to over 100 years. But for those who saint or spiritual being, and in a very old age, very, very ancient time, there's one type of person they call the 真人. And the understanding the yin-yang principle, the universe, how it's running, the heaven and the earth, so they can regulate the breath, and said they can live as long as the heaven and the earth. They have no ending. And in the mid-Asian time, that's considered still ancient, another type of a person called a 智人. So they can also have the wisdom and the knowledge about living, and they can also live as long like the 真人. So the later and next one, they call the 显 生人. The understanding the Tao, and they also live very simple way. They won't take anything into the heart, and so their spirit body are not exhausted, and they can live up to a few hundreds years. And the next one, called the 贤人, mostly considered they are educated at that time. So the understanding 养生 means how healthy living, how to live in a good, healthy life. The understanding the yin yang, and so they can increase their longevity. It means they can increase their designed age, but they always have ending life. It means they will die. So, in a way, this telling us if people meditate or practice Qigong, one's life can extend it. And, but it will have ending. And so from here we can learn there is wisdom, there is principle. A human can live healthy and a longer life. So we say if the longevity plus health, healthy, that is the joy of life. If longevity plus illness, that is the suffering of life. So the wisdom of living and is to prevent disease and to allowing your body in a good state so you can thrive, can extend your whole ability and have a happy, health, peaceful life on earth, and also have a healthy soul. Let me give you a little bit information about the funeral in the point of view of Taoism, and this is written in the book by Zhuangzi. It's a very famous quote. This is only part. So the first story, and he lost his wife. His friend and also student come to visit and to show the sympathy. And when they come to see him, he was put a bowl and drum it and sing in the song, and there's no ceremony. And one of his friends said, "Your wife gave you the children and raised them and also take care of you. He died while you treat her so light." And he said, "You totally misunderstood me. Like she now is being with heaven and the earth, and she had everything she had, and I'm now celebrate for her." So, and when he died, and his disciples also want to bury him with a lot of lavish gifts. That's kind of also one of a tradition. And people, when people, especially emperor died, they bury so many treasures. So, but he said, "No, I have heaven and earth as my coffin. The sun and the moon as precious stones or treasures, the stars as pearls, and all of the things in the nature accompany me. How is my funeral missing anything? Why there's a need to adding more? So in the Taoism, they considering after a person die and there's no need to spend so much money or big celebration, and so they said the body is no different as other materials. They need to return to the dirt. So we should not waste more. And I highly also promoted Taoism principle, live simplicity, and also very to not wasteful. Okay, so now I wanted to switch topic, talking about our life. Also introduce you the current condition and people dying with the disease. As we know, every human being, we have a growth. We already introduced from birth, and then puberty, and then young people, mature man, family person, and then you grow old, and then die. So we have our DNA genetics. Yeah, it doesn't matter how you change. You cannot become a dog or a fly. So that's what our blueprint determines. We are human, and we are different from plant and animals. Human from young, you can see the precious happiness, joy. They don't have the heavy emotion suffers. But with life growing experience, we can see the wrinkles growing on our face, and we worries and concerns. We're not happy. So those can become our factor to causing illness. Today we are not focusing on talking about what causes diseases, but in Chinese medicine, there are two main factors. One from external, like infectious diseases, and another major one we call the true disease is caused by the emotional. So as we know, if one can have a disease and your life is definitely shortened. If you can live healthily without disease, you can live to old and to your desired age. But if you're sick, it's become unpredictable. Longevity. In the ancient Taoist book called the Tai Ping Jing, so that state a human can live up to 120 years. So why is 120 years? In Chinese culture, we believe 60 is a cycle. So we have, we call the Earth branch, the zodiac, we have 12 months and actually 12 hours. But the 12 hours, that's all Chinese hours. 1 hour equals 2 hours now. So we have this is the Earth, the time, and for the heaven time, it's go cycle with 10. So if matching together, and the 60 is one cycle, that's called the jiazi. If a person can reach up to 60 years old, that considered the minimum, the longevity. So if you beyond that, That means you are longevity. You have did a great good deed. So we already talked about longevity from the previous slides in the ancient time, and so a human can reach to 100 years old and still remain healthy body and the spirit. And why people now cannot have a healthy body and spirit together, and they dying with disease or dementia, Parkinson, and so that's due to a lot of factors and to aging the body. So how should one die? And we has been asked this question, and we already state good dying. I'll give you the a case, and nowadays, we often see the dying in the hospital and with drugs, even in the hospice come to the home if people have illness, and they all give them drugs, morphines. And we can understanding later after we presenting human body, soul, how to go, you will understanding why the drug is harmful to this process. So here is the case person that live very healthy, and she actually is Catholic sister and whole life without any drug. She's 94 years old, still healthy mind, body. And so then we say in our modern life, people can live healthily. So drug create long-term side effect, and we can see through our daily life, people long-term using drug for 30, 40 years at the end, and they will have dementia and confusion in the later life. So type of a death, and we asked the question at the beginning. Now we can also see people have a premature death. Like I said, if it's disease, people dying before 60 years old. In Chinese culture, we call it 夭折. It's like the tree in the middle is broken. So that means your life not reached to the design, the lifespan. So we often see people dying without reaching their desired life. They can be killed or in a trauma accident. We mentioned that. And people can be murdered and or killed themselves, and or kill themselves by depression. People can be killed during the war, and those are we call the hero, or they have a meaningful of dying. So the traumas, and it's one of the major in causing people ending their life earlier. I oftenly asked by other people, they said, we cannot argument Chinese medicine or West medicine, which one is better? People say, oh, West medicine is better. Now make it prolong people's life, make people live longer. Actually, the study said it's not due to West medicine and improved people's life. Actually, it's due to there no war and people living much peaceful, happy life, no worries. So that can extending people's life. And also the water condition improved. So that's dramatically can improve humans' life. So to live in the healthy, and we need consistent every day, mindfully, to know how to 养生. Dying, and this is a summarize, and healthy dying, dying without the disease, and to most people, especially on the spiritual path, they can know the time when their life is going to end, so they are prepared, and they can die with consciousness. So for people being killed or ill, drugged, and those are considered unhealthy dying, how can we limit those? So Chinese medicine, we can providing a solution and helping people dying without drug.